What's going on, guys? Hope you're all doing well. I know it's been a super long time since I've made any videos here on YouTube, and that was mainly due to the fact that I had COVID and was suffering from an injury. So today, I want to talk to you guys about my experience with COVID, how it's affected me, and overall, what it's done to my performance. So first things first, this is not a medical advice video, alright? I'm not going to be breaking down any of the scientific things about what COVID does to our bodies. I'm simply going to be talking about my experience with it, how it affected me, and what I did to get through it, okay? And since I know a lot of you are going to be asking this question, I'm currently not fully vaccinated due to personal reasons. So to start this story off, the very first thing that had happened to me was that I pulled my hamstring. And this is before I'd contracted COVID. I was at a track meet, and a long story short, I did not prepare myself to the best of my ability and ended up pulling my hamstring during a long jump. It's unfortunate, it happens to the best of us, but I am somebody who's pulled my hamstring many times in the past, and so I know exactly what I needed to do to rehab it, how long it would take for me to get back to normal, and so on. So anyways, I'm doing my recovery, eating well, drinking lots of water, getting my rest and recovery, but I still wasn't really healing. I felt that there was definitely a bigger issue. About 5 days after pulling my hamstring, my body was aching incredibly. From my back to my glutes, just all over. I felt some incredible aches. And I thought maybe it was because I was walking more, I was, going out with family more. Keep in mind, I wasn't even working out. I was not going to the gym. I was not doing no body weight training. I was simply just walking a lot. And when I say walking a lot, I don't mean like 5-10 miles per day, more like, 1 to 2 miles. But keep in mind that I'm somebody who regularly trains about 6 days a week. So to go from intense training throughout the week to just basic walking, it was kind of alarming that my body was aching so much. And I also started to develop a little bit of a headache. I also thought that that headache was contributed to the fact that it was super hot outside and maybe I wasn't drinking enough water with all the walking I was doing. But then the next symptom showed up, and that's where I lost my smell. And that's where I figured that this could possibly be COVID. So after I lost my smell, my body was aching like crazy and I had a headache. I went ahead and did a COVID test and it turned out to be positive. Thankfully for me, I did not have any other symptoms besides loss of smell, a little bit of a headache, and body aches. And after just 1 day of being sick, my smell came back, my headache went away, and my body aches significantly subsided. So thankfully, COVID did not hit me hard in regards to the respiratory effects, the coughing, sneezing, or anything like that. So from there, even though I felt good, I remained quarantined. I did not see anybody for 2 weeks, and I just went ahead with my business and continued on with my rehab for my hamstring. So now it's been about a week and a half since I pulled my hamstring. I have COVID, but I'm asymptomatic and I'm feeling good. So I get back to doing some bodyweight training at my house. And thankfully, things were feeling great. Besides my hamstring not being 100%, I did not feel any limitations or restrictions when it came to my strength, power, or my cardio. My hamstring was slowly getting better. I was now able to do some low-level jumps, and I no longer had any pain. So fast forward about 3 weeks later, and this is where things get very weird. So I'm back in the gym now. I've been training. I don't feel any restrictions from my hamstring, and I'm feeling great. But there was one day my body started aching again. Just like when I first had COVID, except this time it was much, much worse. So I didn't really know what was going on. I thought about COVID, but then I thought, how can it be COVID because I just had it 3 weeks ago? And I thought maybe it was just because my intensity of training was going back up and my body was getting used to it again. But I had honestly no idea. The very next day, my body was aching like crazy to the point where I literally could barely walk. My back was having spasms every time I moved. My glutes felt like there was a strain in it. My hamstring started hurting again. My entire body was aching and it was very difficult to move. So I ended up going to the hospital because I was trying to figure out what was going on with me. I didn't want it to get worse, and it came out of nowhere, so I was very alarmed as what it could be. So I get to the hospital and the nurses and doctors start running a couple tests on me. They completely rule out COVID because one, I did not have any of the normal symptoms, and two, I just had COVID 3 weeks ago. So they were like, there's no way you can have COVID again that quickly. So after being there for hours, I just asked the doctor, what if it's COVID again? And he was just telling me, there's no way, it can't be, you just had it, whatever. But I was like, I kind of felt like this when I had COVID previously. This is just 10 times worse. So he was like, all right, well, let's just see if it is COVID. I ended up doing 3 COVID tests. 2 came back negative, and the last test came back positive. This is what doesn't make sense to me, is because if I didn't even ask the doctor to do the test, he wasn't going to do it because he already ruled it out completely. And the fact that 2 tests were negative and 1 was positive already raised so many more questions that they didn't even have answers for. So after that final test came back positive, the doctor said, yes, this is all COVID related, and he just made up his decision just like that. It's COVID related. Even though he just said it's impossible I can have COVID again. So they let me go. They just told me to quarantine. They told me to take some anti-inflammatories to help with all the pain and the aches and whatnot. And so I did. So now I'm in my second quarantine, completely confused if I actually have it or not. I have 0 symptoms whatsoever besides my body aching, and I really think that this was a false positive. I ended up doing my research, and CDC actually recommended that you don't take a test after quarantining for 14 days because it can still show positive if you just recently had it. And why my body was aching, I think I actually just strained it during training. I was doing a plyometric workout and my hamstring maybe wasn't 100%, and maybe I just pushed a little bit too much to the point where I'd re-strained myself. I don't think I had COVID a second time, but who the heck knows. I definitely did have COVID that first time, and what I think it really impacted me with was my recovery. Although time was going by since I pulled my hamstring, I wasn't really recovering because I had COVID, and it had ultimately affected my body's healing process. To be honest, 3 weeks after pulling my hamstring, I thought I was good. I tested myself, I'd gone through my rehab, I'd made sure that I could do specific things before I went back to a higher intensity, and I felt fine. But reality was, I didn't really heal properly due to the COVID. And due to my body not healing properly, that led me to straining my glute muscle and my back, which led to those intense body aches that I felt the second time. Now I'm sitting here about a month and a half later from initially pulling my hamstring, and I feel that my body's at about 90%. I'm not pushing anything, I'm not going way past my abilities and capabilities. I'm keeping my ego down, and I'm making sure that I'm just working slowly and in a comfortable manner. I really haven't noticed any other effects of what COVID has had on my overall performance. My cardio feels normal, my strength and power feels normal, at least in the upper body, and I'm just taking things very slowly when it comes to lower body work because I'm not trying to re-injure myself again. So what exactly did I do to recover? I just took time. I made sure that I was eating well. I drank tons of water. I drink about 5-6 liters of water every single day. I get good rest, and I'm not overdoing anything. I'm not trying to overexert like I used to. I'm just really taking things slowly. So that's my story, guys. I hope I didn't ramble too much. I hope maybe this helps somebody or anybody else can relate to this. If you're having some random body aches that you don't know where it came from, it could possibly be COVID. Who knows? Anyways, guys, I am officially back to making YouTube videos, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of my content. And if you have any questions at all, feel free to leave it in the comment section down below. I do go through them and I will get back to you. But thanks so much for watching, and I'm going to see you guys soon.